INFJs don't walk into a room and demand attention. They walk in, and somehow the room shifts anyway. Most people cannot explain what it is about certain people that makes them feel different. Not louder, not more attractive, not more confident in the obvious way, just different. Like there is something operating underneath the surface that you cannot name, but you absolutely feel. People who encounter INFJs describe this consistently. A sense that this person sees more than they are saying. A feeling of being simultaneously drawn in and slightly unsettled. A quality of presence that does not announce itself but cannot be ignored. Most INFJs have no idea they produce this effect. They are usually too busy wondering why people find them so hard to read when the reality is the opposite. They are the ones doing all the reading, and everyone else can feel it. Here is what actually surprises people when they finally understand it. The INFJ aura is not a mystery. It is not spiritual. It is not supernatural. It is not some quality that cannot be explained. It is the direct, visible result of a very specific set of psychological and behavioral realities that the INFJ lives with every single day. And once you understand what those realities are, the aura makes complete sense. What people are sensing is real. They just did not have the language for it. This video gives you the language. If this channel is the first place you have found content that actually goes this deep into the INFJ experience, subscribe. Because this is what we do here, every single video. Let's get into it. The eyes that see too much. Why INFJs make people feel simultaneously seen and exposed. The most immediate component of the INFJ aura, the thing people feel within the first few minutes of interaction, is the quality of the INFJ's attention. When an INFJ looks at you and listens to you, something happens that most people are not accustomed to. You feel actually seen. Not in the polite social way where someone is making eye contact and nodding at the right moments. In a deeper way, like the person across from you is tracking something underneath your words, underneath your presentation, underneath the version of yourself you brought to this interaction. And they are doing it without effort, without obvious analysis, just as a natural function of how they engage with people. This quality of attention is immediately attractive to most people. Being truly seen is one of the deepest human needs, and it is genuinely rare. Most interactions involve two people managing their own presentations while performing attention to the other. The INFJ is not performing. They are actually there, actually tracking, actually interested in what is real rather than what is presented. People feel this difference even when they cannot name it. There is a warmth and a weight to the INFJ's attention that registers as something significant. But underneath the attraction is a second feeling that runs simultaneously, a low-level sense of exposure. Because if this person is seeing more than most people see, they are also seeing the things you did not intend to show. The anxiety you were covering with confidence, the need underneath the joke, the uncertainty behind the opinion you stated too firmly, but did not reveal any of that deliberately. But the INFJ caught it anyway, and some part of you knows they caught it, even if they never say a word about it. This combination, feeling deeply seen and slightly exposed at the same time, is one of the defining qualities of the INFJ aura. It produces a specific response in people that is hard to categorize. They are drawn to the INFJ and slightly unsettled by them simultaneously. They want more of the attention and are also vaguely aware that the attention costs them something. They cannot fully explain either feeling, but they feel both clearly every time. The silence that communicates, how INFJ say more by saying less. One of the most consistent things people notice about INFJs, often before they notice anything else, is the quality of their silence. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. They fill it. They talk past their own point, add unnecessary qualifications, bring in humor when the conversation gets too real, all to avoid the specific discomfort of a pause that has weight. The INFJ does none of this. When the INFJ is quiet, the quiet means something, and people feel that meaning even when they cannot decode it. The INFJ's relationship with silence comes from the same place as everything else about them. The interior is always running. When the INFJ is not speaking, they are not absent. They are processing, observing, integrating what was just said with everything else they have collected about this person and this dynamic. The silence is active, not passive, and active silence has a different texture than empty silence. People register the difference in their bodies before they register it in their minds. This produces a specific effect in conversation with an INFJ. When they pause after something you said, really pause, not just a conversational beat, you feel the weight of your own words differently. Like they landed somewhere that took them seriously. Like what you just said is being considered rather than processed and forgotten. Most people are not used to that experience. They spend the majority of their social lives in conversations where words disappear as soon as they are spoken. The INFJ's silence makes words feel like they matter, and that feeling is part of what people cannot explain but consistently notice. The other dimension of INFJ silence is what it withholds. People sense correctly that the INFJ knows more than they are saying, that the observation has been made, the pattern has been identified, the conclusion has been reached, and the INFJ is choosing, for their own reasons, not to share all of it. This creates a quality of depth that most people find both compelling and slightly destabilizing. You are in a conversation with someone who is operating on more information than the conversation contains. And some part of you knows it. That knowledge changes the dynamic in ways that are real but almost impossible to articulate. The contradictions that cannot be categorized. Why INFJs resist every box people try to put them in. Part of what produces the INFJ aura is the experience people have of trying to categorize the INFJ and consistently failing. Human beings are pattern recognition machines. When we meet someone new, we immediately begin filing them. This person is like this, fits into this category, can be understood through this framework. It is not conscious, it is automatic, and it usually works. Most people are categorizable within the first few interactions. The INFJ resists this process in a way that is deeply disorienting for people who try, not because the INFJ is being deliberately mysterious or withholding, but because the INFJ genuinely contains contradictions that do not resolve into a single clean category. They are deeply warm and completely private. They are intellectually precise and emotionally intuitive at the same time. They are the most attentive person in the room and the most detached. They appear completely open in conversation and reveal very little of their actual interior. They seem gentle and carry an iron quality that surfaces unexpectedly when something they care about is at stake. Every time someone thinks they have the INFJ figured out, the INFJ does something that does not fit the model, and the inability to categorize someone produces a specific psychological response. Fascination mixed with frustration. You want to understand this person. You keep not quite getting there, and the not getting there keeps the attention on the INFJ in a way that categorizable people simply do not hold. This is not a strategy the INFJ is running. They are not manufacturing mystery. The contradictions are genuine. The INFJ is actually all of those things simultaneously, and the internal experience of being all of those things is often confusing to the INFJ themselves. They are not performing complexity, they are complex. And real complexity, encountered in a person rather than a concept, has a quality that people feel as an aura, even when they cannot identify it as complexity. What people are sensing when they sense the INFJ aura is, in part, the presence of a person who does not fit the available categories. And the mind that cannot categorize something keeps returning to it. That return, over and over, is experienced by the INFJ as an unusual quality of attention from the people around them, which it is. But the source of it is not supernatural. It is cognitive. People are drawn back to what they cannot fully resolve. The calm that unsettles. Why INFJ composure reads as power even when they are struggling. There is a quality that almost every person who has spent real time around an INFJ eventually comments on. A composure that does not break in the situations where most people's composure breaks. When things get tense, when the conversation turns difficult, when someone in the rooms escalates emotionally, the INFJ does not match the escalation. They get quieter, more still, more present in a way that is somehow more intense rather than less. And that stillness in the middle of turbulence reads as a kind of power that people respond to viscerally. This composure is not the absence of feeling. The INFJ is feeling everything, often more than anyone else in the room. Their empathic nervous system is absorbing the full emotional weight of whatever is happening. But the INFJ's relationship to their own emotional experience is different from most people's relationship to theirs. The INFJ processes internally before expressing externally, sometimes so internally, for so long that the external expression never fully arrives. The inside is turbulent. The outside stays measured. And the gap between those two things produces the composure that reads as power. What makes this particularly interesting is that the composure is real, even when it is also a form of containment. The INFJ is not pretending to be calm. They have a genuine capacity to remain functional and present in high-pressure situations, to think clearly while others are reacting, to see the dynamics at play while others are inside them. This capacity is not practiced. It developed because the INFJ spent years in environments that required them to manage their own interior experience while remaining available to everyone else. The composure is a survival skill that evolved into something that reads as authority. People respond to this composure instinctively. In moments of collective stress, their attention moves toward the person who is not panicking, and the INFJ, almost always, is that person, not because they are stronger than others, but because their processing happens in a layer that is not visible, which means the visible layer stays steady while everything else moves. That steadiness, in a world of people who wear their reactions on the surface, is unusual enough to register as something significant, something worth paying attention to, something that feels, from the outside, like presence, like authority, like an aura. The warmth with walls. Why people feel close to INFJs without ever getting all the way in. There is a specific experience that people consistently report after spending time with an INFJ. They walk away feeling like they had a real conversation, like something genuine was exchanged, like they were actually known by the person they were talking to. And then, at some point later, they realize they do not actually know very much about the INFJ. The INFJ asked the right questions. The INFJ was fully present. The INFJ understood things the person had not even fully said. But the INFJ's own interior, their actual life, their actual struggles, their actual self, remained largely private throughout. This is one of the most defining qualities of the INFJ's social presence, and one of the primary components of the aura people sense. The INFJ is simultaneously the most present person in a conversation and the most protected. The warmth is real, the interest is genuine. But beneath the warmth and behind the interest is a series of internal walls that most people never fully reach, even after years of knowing the INFJ. People feel this quality without being able to name it. They feel close to the INFJ without being able to explain exactly what they know about them. They feel seen by the INFJ without feeling like the seeing goes in both directions. And this asymmetry, being known without fully knowing, being close without arriving, creates a dynamic that keeps people engaged with the INFJ in a way that fully transparent people do not produce. The walls are not manipulation, they are protection. The INFJ learned, usually early, that full transparency is not safe, that showing the complete interior produces reactions that range from confusion to exploitation. So they developed a way of being genuinely present and genuinely warm, while keeping the most vulnerable parts of themselves behind a line that moves very slowly, if at all, towards someone new. Most people never realize the line is there. They experience the warmth and assume access. And the INFJ, aware of the gap between what the other person perceives and what is actually available, carries a specific kind of loneliness that is built directly into their most intimate connections. The moral gravity. Why INFJs make people feel accountable without saying a word. This one is subtle, but it is one of the most consistent components of the INFJ aura, and the one that most often makes people slightly uncomfortable without being able to say why. When you are around an INFJ, you become vaguely more aware of your own behavior. Not because they are judging you, They are usually not, at least not in the way that word implies. Not because they say anything that calls you out, but because there is something about their presence that creates a mild but distinct sense of moral accountability in the people around them. This happens because of how the INFJ moves through the world. They have an exceptionally clear internal value system, a sense of what is real, what is honest, what is genuine, what is right, and they live inside that system consistently. They do not perform values for an audience. They do not adjust their ethics based on who is watching. And because that consistency is genuine rather than performed, it produces a quality in their presence that people feel without being told about it. You are around someone who is being real, and that reality, without any statement, creates a contrast with the moments when you are not being real. The INFJ does not make you feel judged, they make you feel seen. And being really seen, by someone whose own behavior is consistently aligned with their stated values, produces a specific discomfort in the parts of your own behavior that do not meet that standard. Not because the INFJ applied any pressure, just because the contrast is there, doing its work silently. This quality explains something that confuses a lot of INFJs. Why certain people become defensive around them without obvious provocation. Why some people seem to need to prove something in the INFJ's presence. Why others overshare confessions or apologies that the INFJ never asked for. The INFJ's moral clarity is not a weapon, but it functions like a mirror. And some people, when they encounter a mirror that reflects honestly, respond to the reflection rather than to the person holding it. The discomfort they feel is their own. The INFJ just happened to be present when they felt it. Why the INFJ aura fades and what causes it to disappear completely. Everything described in this video, the quality of attention, the communicative silence, the composure, the warmth with walls, the moral gravity, all of it is dependent on one thing, and that one thing is the INFJ's interior being intact. When the interior is healthy, when the INFJ has the solitude they need, when their values are being honored, when they are operating from a place of genuine presence rather than depletion, the aura is real and it is consistent. People feel it. It is not manufactured and it cannot be faked. It is the natural output of a specific kind of person functioning at their natural level. But when the INFJ is depleted, when they have been running on empty for too long, when they have been in environments that consistently required them to be something other than what they are, when they have been giving without receiving, absorbing without processing, performing stability they do not actually have, the aura does not perform, it disappears. And what replaces it is something that the INFJ finds deeply disorient, a flatness, a disconnection, a sense of being present in rooms without actually being there. The eyes that usually see everything start missing things. The silence that usually communicates becomes just silence. The composure becomes numbness. The warmth becomes performance. People notice this shift even when they cannot name it. They describe the depleted INFJ as seeming different, less themselves, somehow less present even when physically in the room. And the INFJ, aware of the shift from the inside, often does not know how to explain it to the people around them. Because how do you explain that the thing people valued about you is not a skill you can switch on? It is a function of your interior health, and right now your interior is not healthy. The INFJ aura is not a power the INFJ wields. It is the natural result of a particular kind of depth functioning properly, which means protecting it requires protecting the conditions that make it possible. The solitude, the alignment with values, the genuine connections, the interior life that is not permanently given away. Take care of the interior. The aura takes care of itself. 7 layers of something most people have felt but never been able to explain. The INFJ aura is not mystery for the sake of mystery. It is not performance. It is not a personality trait someone chose. It is the direct output of a mind that processes the world at a depth most people do not operate at, and a presence that reflects that depth, whether the INFJ intends it to or not. If you are an INFJ watching this, you did not choose any of this, but it is yours, and understanding it, rather than being confused or unsettled by the effect you have on people, is the beginning of being able to use it with intention, rather than just carrying it without knowing what it is. Brainy Quiet Mind. Subscribe. Share this with someone who has always felt this but never had the words. One question for the comments. Has someone ever told you that you make them feel seen? And did any part of you feel more alone when they said it, because you knew they still had not seen you?